3 bone-chilling neighbor horror stories that will haunt you forever at midnight, on a quiet street in a sleepy town. Shadows loom long and secrets seep into the cracks of houses. Midnight creeps in, wrapping its cold fingers around the secrets each night. But not just any secrets, terrifying truths that claw at your sanity. It begins with Mrs. Plinston, the elderly widow with eyes like storm clouds. Whispers in the neighborhood say she keeps a diary of horrors, filled with the names of every neighbor. They claim if you peek through her window, you might catch glimpses of shadowy figures dancing in her living room, their laughter echoing hollow and distant. And don't get me started on the whispers. Late at night, voices spill out from her garden, a chilling blend of laughter and cries that steals your breath away. Just down the block, something even stranger lurks. The Johnsons moved in last summer, but they're rarely seen. The blinds are drawn tight, and a heavy fog seems to cling to their front porch. Rumor has it they've adopted a stray cat, but it's not like any cat you've ever seen. Neighbors swear it's bigger, darker, and when it paces on the lawn, the ground trembles as if even the earth is keen on its presence. Some claim they've caught glimpses of the family huddled over an enormous cauldron in the backyard, shadows twisting in odd shapes as the smell of something foul wafts through the air. What kind of family brews concoctions like that? Months of night after night have a way of building unease, like uninvited guests. People started to hear things, the creaks and groans of homes settling. Maybe. But late at night it felt different. There were rustlings that seemed too deliberate, almost purposeful. Adam, a neighborhood kid with a penchant for mischief, gathered his friends one night, daring them to knock on Mrs. Plinston's door. They stood there, hearts pounding, breaths caught, before wild laughter suddenly erupted from behind them. Spinning around, the yard was empty, just silence as thick as fog. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the night deepened, thick chills wrapped around their limbs like ghostly chains. They dared each other to go back in. Doubts gnawed at their minds. Just a prank, they whispered. Yet the inviting warmth of their homes felt light years away. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the quiet, a sound that couldn't just be a trick of the wind. It carried a weight of panic, a primal cry that sent shivers down spines. The children froze. What on earth had happened? Just then, the blinds of Mrs. Plinston's house rattled open, revealing her wide, terrified eyes. She held up her hands, trembling. The shadows danced behind her, closing in, and as Adam took a step forward, the ground seemed to shift beneath them. What dark movements awaited just behind those windows? Why was the scream so chillingly familiar? The answers hung in the air, heavy with dread, and everything felt like it teetered on the edge of revelation. Adam's heart pounded in his chest, urging him to flee. But curiosity gnawed at him like a hungry wolf. He took another step, and the wind twisted through the trees, sending a shiver spiraling down his spine. The other kids clutched each other's arms, wide-eyed, frozen in a mix of fear and intrigue. Don't. It's not safe. One of them hissed, clutching a friend's arm so tightly it looked painful. But Adam pushed the door forward, its rusty hinges creaking like a warning. The sounds blended, a symphony of anxiety wrapped in the oppressive night air. As he stepped onto the porch, a cloud passed over the moon, draping the landscape in darkness. From Mrs. Plinston's living room, the shadows began to swirl, almost beckoning him closer. A distant cry echoed, reminding him of something he couldn't quite grasp. It hung in the air like a bad decision waiting to unfold. "Do you hear that?" he whispered, his voice trembling, revealing his own fear. The kids leaned in, straining to catch the sound of despair clawing up from the depths of that house. "It's just the wind," one scoffed, but their shaky breaths betrayed them. Suddenly, the door creaked wider, almost as if it was inviting him, as the dim light from inside beckoned like an unholy secret. In that moment, Adam caught a glimpse of movement beyond the curtain, a flicker of something pale and otherworldly. His breath caught in his throat. Time stood still, wrapped in the suspenseful tension of unfolding dread. Before he could reconsider, he crossed the threshold. The air inside felt thick and heavy, a mix of mildew and something sweetly putrid. It was disorienting. Adam squinted as shadows danced against the walls, and the ghostly laughter echoed, threading through each corner as if mocking him. "Shut the door," someone hissed, anxiety bubbling in their voice. And no, we need to see. His defiance morphed into resolve, but the feeling of being watched enveloped him. Moving through the musty house felt like stepping into a nightmare layered deep within the mundane. He could hear whispers now, low and rhythmic, wrapping around him like tendrils. Names flowed in and out of his mind, voices he didn't recognize, yet somehow felt familiar. And then he saw it. A diary lay open on a rickety table, ink scrawled in frenzied lines across the pages. The name Adam jumped out, written over and over, along with notes of fear, pain, and despair. His heart raced as realization dawned, a foreboding sense that he wasn't just an observer. He was part of something far darker. Behind him, the laughter stopped abruptly. An unsettling hush fell. "What's happening?" one of his friends whimpered. Adam's body responded without thought. He turned, and there she was, Mrs. Plinston, enshrouded in shadows, her voice a low rasp that wound around him like barbed wire. "You shouldn't have come here." Adam's breath hitched. The shadows morphed behind her, swirling, closing in a menacing audience to his impending doom. He didn't feel brave anymore. Panic surged through him like a wild river. "Run!" he shouted. But the whispers crescendoed, pulling them back, deeper into the old woman's haunted domain. Outside, the street felt alien, covered in darkness thick as tar. Those cold fingers of fate pressed down on him, promising answers yet offering only terror. As they reached the front door, the shadows lunged. Just then, the piercing scream erupted once more, shattering the silence. It echoed through the night like a dagger of despair. What would they discover about Mrs. Plinston and her diary of horrors? Would they run back? Or was it already too late? Was there any escape from this waking nightmare, or were they about to become a part of her story? The answers lingered on the edge of night, waiting to be uncovered. And somewhere, amidst the chaos, he felt the eyes of the Johnsons watching. They bolted for the door. Adam's senses screamed in alarm as the shadows surged forward, eager to absorb yet another unwary soul. He could hear his friend's footsteps trampling against the rotting floorboards, disjointed, desperate. "Don't leave me!" A voice, barely recognizable, yet filled with panic, wailed behind him. Whether it belonged to Sarah or Jamie, he didn't care. All that mattered was the blinding light of escape looming just steps away, a sliver of salvation they had to reach. Adam grabbed the doorknob, his fingers slick with sweat. He twisted it, pulling against the age-old wood. It didn't budge. He could feel the shadows closing in, thick and suffocating. Their whispers a cacophony of malevolence, drowning out the shimmer of moonlight. "Help! It won't open!" he cried, adrenaline firing every nerve in his body. "Push!" Jamie shouted, and they all rammed against the door. The wood trembled, releasing a painful groan that echoed through chilling silence, but it remained shut, firm like a vault guarding sinister secrets. Just then, a shiver coursed through him, an echo of despair. A whisper, faint but unmistakably familiar. "Adam, help me!" His blood froze. The sound, fragile, yet insistent, cut through the chaos, reaching deep into him. His heart pounded as he turned back. There, bathed in the dimmest sliver of light, stood Mrs. Plinston. Her eyes were lost in shadow, but the gleam of her teeth caught the feeble illumination, stretching into a sinister smile. "Come here with me, Adam," she cooed softly, extending a bony finger that beckoned him forward. The diary lay open at her feet, ink pooling in dark stains around the pages smeared by past horrors. "Stay away from him," Sarah screamed, her bravery a thin veil of desperation, pushed beyond the brink. The others clutched at each other, desperation mirrored in their eyes. "And Mrs. Plinston, we didn't mean to," Adam stammered, frozen between curiosity and dread, defined by the pull of that damned voice, echoing the warmth of childhood familiarity. "Truth, my sweet boy," she crooned, shadows curling around her. "You've always wanted answers." A doll, cobweb-laden and lifeless, swayed from a nearby shelf, captivating, as gruesome as it was entrancing. Adam felt as if his very spirit was tethered to it, like a marionette bound to its strings. He tried to look away, but the room tilted, darkness pressing against his mind, smothering reason. Suddenly, the air grew electric. A shattering sound ricocheted through the room, a window shattering into glittering shards. The blast released a gust of wind, scattering papers, sending the diary flipping through the air like the wings of a trapped bird. "Run!" Adam shouted again, breaking the spell that held them tight in place. He lunged for the door, throwing his weight against it one last time. The door swung open, revealing an abyss of night beyond. A whirlwind of terror broke loose, and they exploded through the opening. Cold air slapped their faces, but freedom ignited their flight, propelling them away from the haunted house. Adam risked a glance back just as the door slammed closed behind them. The weight lifted. They were free, or were they? As they raced towards safety, the haunting laughter trailed behind them like an unshakable shadow. A sense of dread unfurled in the pit of Adam's stomach, and he stumbled, nearly falling. What was that back there? Jamie gasped, glancing over his shoulder. "Mrs. Plinston and that diary," Adam muttered, remembering the pages of ink that had traced his name. An understanding rushed upon him like a flood. As they rounded the corner, the eerie fog thickened. The streetlights flickered, shadows lengthening in the dim glow, and a chilling realization gripped him. This wasn't just a nightmare. It was only the beginning. They needed to know the truth behind Mrs. Plinston and the power of her diary. Did it hold the darkness of their past? What had they awakened? And out of the dense shadows, the knowing eyes of the Johnsons watched, intent and patient. Were they spectators of this horror, or something far worse? The air felt alive, pulsing with a sinister energy as Adam and his friends stumbled back, panting and wide-eyed. They glanced around, disoriented, struggling to shake off the suffocating weight of what they had just escaped. The shrill echo of laughter still lingered in Adam's ears, an ominous reminder that freedom might just be an illusion. "Did you see her?" Sarah exclaimed, her voice trembling as she pressed against Jamie, seeking comfort in the closeness of her friends. "Who? What was that?" Jamie echoed, eyes darting nervously down the desolate street. The once vibrant neighborhood felt foreign now, darkened by a creeping dread. The shadows seemed to pour out from every corner, eager to consume them. I don't know," Adam whispered, his mind racing. Mrs. Plinston was different. She wasn't just a creepy old lady. "Different how?" Jamie asked, a frown marring his brow, confusion mixing with fear. "The way she acted, it was like she knew us," Adam replied, a bead of sweat trickling down his forehead. "And that diary, it felt alive." The sinking feeling in the pit of Adam's stomach twisted tighter as he recalled the ink pooling like blood around sinister memories. They had to keep moving, but no one wanted to be the first to suggest leaving the safety of the streetlights. As they crept further away from the haunted house, tension hung heavy in the air. One by one, the flickering streetlights dimmed, casting them into deeper shadow. "Should we call someone?" Sarah asked, peeking around nervously. "Like a police officer? Who would believe us?" Jamie shot back, defensiveness creeping into his tone. "We sound insane." Adam nodded, his heart racing. They were no longer just kids messing around. They had ventured into something darker than any prank or thrill. Something dangerous. The silence engulfed them. Then came a soft rustling from a nearby alley, like a whisper from the gloom. They all froze, breath hitching in their throats. "Maybe it's just a cat," Sarah suggested, her voice faltering. But as if in answer, a low, guttural growl rumbled from the shadows. The sound sent shards of ice shooting down Adam's spine. "Let us get out of here," Adam urged, grabbing Sarah's wrist as they hurriedly walked past the alley, casting frantic glances at the inky darkness. Every step echoing like a drum in their ears, they focused on the distant glow of the street ahead. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Adam caught a glimpse of something unnatural, something pale and thin darting between the shadows, almost human but twisted, grotesque. "Did you see that?" he shouted, nearly tripping as he stumbled back. "What?" Jamie gasped, turning to look. "What did you see?" "I don't know. We have to move." But as they rushed forward, the shadows around them seemed to stretch and twist, claws of darkness grasping at their heels. Panic surged as they broke into a sprint, racing towards home, hearts pounding like war drums. But just as they thought they were safe, a voice echoed from behind them. "Did you honestly think you could escape?" They turned, fear gripping their hearts as they faced a familiar figure, Mrs. Plinston, now standing at the mouth of the alley, her smile wider and her eyes alight with something crueler than before. "What have you awakened?" she crooned, shadows swirling around her like dark smoke. Caught between panic and confusion, Adam's throat tightened. They needed answers, but the truth felt more dangerous than the darkness itself. "Run!" he shouted, but the words barely left his mouth before the shadows leaped forward, eager to drag them back into despair and the chaos. Dawn's light was still far away, but the night was far from over. What banished terror awaited them in the daylight? A rush of adrenaline propelled Adam and his friends forward, feet pounding against the asphalt. The chilling laughter of Mrs. Plinston echoed behind them, bouncing off the cracked walls of the buildings, making it impossible to shake the sense of looming dread. Sarah's grip on Adam's arm tightened. He could feel her heart racing, just as his own was, a frantic rhythm threading their fears together. "Keep running," he urged, but the shadows seemed to thicken, clawing at their ankles, slowing them down, making every step harder than the last. Jamie's breath came out in wild gasps. "We can't outrun whatever she is. It's not just her." Adam shot back, scanning the darkened alleyways for any sign of escape. There's something else, something worse. The shadows twisted, writhing like a living sentient being. Adam's stomach churned. They were near the old grocery store, its neon sign flickering precariously, but it felt like a mirage in the dark. The thought of hiding inside made his skin crawl, yet it was better than being caught by Mrs. Plinston and her terrifying shadows. "Over there." Sarah pointed towards the store, her voice a blend of determination and panic. They sprinted toward the entrance, desperation lending them speed. Just as they reached the door, a scratching sound emerged from behind them, followed by an unsettling purr that curdled the blood in Adam's veins. He turned to see a dark mass spilling from the alley, paw-like shapes slinking toward them. They weren't cats, not with those glowing red eyes. "Open the door," Adam yelled, his hands trembling as he fumbled with the handle. It was locked. An ice-cold wave of hopelessness washed over him. They were trapped. Claws of panic clawed at his throat as he banged incessantly on the door, willing it to yield. Come on, Sarah cried, her eyes wild as she glanced back at the advancing shadows. The shapes morphed and shifted, their bodies elongated and hunched, more beast than human. Finally, a flicker of light appeared within. The door creaked open slightly, revealing a silhouette. A store clerk, older and unkempt, peered at them, confusion etched on his face. "What do you want?" he grumbled, his voice gravelly. "Let us in, please," Jamie shouted, panic evident in his tone. The clerk hesitated, glancing over at the approaching darkness, then swung the door wide. Adam pushed Sarah inside and jammed himself in right after, slamming the door shut. The smell of stale bread and decay hit them like a brick wall. They stumbled into the dim light of the store, hearts racing, frantically looking around. But as they turned, the clerk had dropped his defiance. His eyes glimmered strangely, locking onto theirs with an unsettling intensity. "Why did you come here?" he asked, voice low. "You brought it with you, what?" Adam stammered, confusion flowing over him like ice water. "What do you mean?" The shadows, the clerk whispered, eyes wild, darting sideways. They know you now. Suddenly, a violent thud echoed against the door, rattling the building. Something was hammering on the outside. Get back, the clerk shouted, pushing them away from the door just before it burst open. A wave of shadows surged into the store, swallowing the light whole. All they could hear was the frightening symphony of growls and laughter blending together. Adam's breath hitched. It wasn't just Mrs. Plinston. They had unknowingly triggered a rage deeper than they could fathom. As darkness enveloped them, Adam felt the weight of a horrifying realization settle on his chest. They had not escaped. They had only awakened what lurked beneath. What do we do now? Sarah's voice quivered. In that moment, Adam didn't have an answer. All he could do was watch as the shadows danced, a swirling storm of chaos and malice ready to claim them. Run deeper into the store, he yelled, taking charge as fear propelled them toward the back. But just as they turned the corner, they stumbled upon something that made their blood run cold, a grotesque mural depicting their very own faces, twisted and contorted in agony. What the hell is this? Jamie whispered, eyes wide with terror. That a whisper brushed against Adam's ear, sweet yet sinister. You'll never leave your part of the story now. What had they awakened? And who knew? What was the creature behind the terrible mural? The truth was buried deep within those shadows, and they were about to uncover it. Panic surged through Adam as he stepped back from the mural, the grotesque faces frozen in real agony. His heart raced, pounding in his ears like a war drum. Sarah squeezed his hand tighter, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. We've got to get out of here, Jamie whispered. His eyes darted around the store, searching for an escape route. But the shadows shifted closer, swirling and thickening, making it hard to see clearly. The store felt like a trap closing in on them, the air heavy with impending doom. What do you think it means? Sarah's voice trembled, panic stark against the eerie silence that followed. I don't know, Adam snapped, fighting back his own fear. But we can't stay here. He turned sharply, pushing through the dimly lit aisles, hoping to find a back door or a window. The clerk had vanished, leaving only the unnerving weight of his warning hanging in the air. Shadows pulsed like a heartbeat, and he could sense them creeping, listening, waiting. Look, Jamie cried, pointing towards the back of the store where dim light flickered. That might be a way out. They raced toward the sliver of brightness, adrenaline driving them forward. As they moved, a faint sound reached Adam's ears like whispers, low and sinister, curling around them. It was hard to focus, hard to think with the weight of fear closing in. Keep going, Adam shouted, urging them onward. But uneasy claws of doubt scratched at his mind. What if they weren't meant to escape? What if the shadows were already entwined with them, marking them as prey? Then they heard it, a soft sobbing, barely a murmur, but chilling enough to stop them in their tracks. They exchanged horrified glances. The sound came from behind a shelf filled with old cans and dusty boxes. Do we check it out? Sarah whispered, inching back as if afraid the shadows might reach for her. No, we don't have time, Jamie insisted, tugging at her arm. But Adam couldn't tear his gaze away from the shadows pooling around the shelf. A figure appeared, slowly emerging from the gloom. It was small, trembling, eyes wide, reflecting the flickering light. Help me, the figure begged. It was a girl, no older than 10, her clothes tattered and stained. Please, they're coming. Who's coming? Adam asked, instinct kicking in despite the fear rooting him in place. The shadows, her voice dropped to a whisper. They're hungry, they feed on your fear. In that moment, the shadows seemed to pulse with hunger, snaking closer, reaching for the girl. Each whisper intensified, growing louder, drowning out all reason. Adam felt his heart racing, a rising tide of terror threatening to drown him. Run, he shouted, grabbing Sarah's hand and pulling Jamie back. But before they could turn, the front door slammed shut with a deafening bang, the rage of the shadows forcing it shut, trapping them inside. The girl let out a terrified scream, but it was quickly muffled by the dark waves flooding the store. You have to believe, she shouted, eyes begging. Or they'll take you. You have to push them back. push them back? Adam parroted, confusion swirling with fear. How? I don't know. She was crying now, voice breaking. But you can't let them in. Then it clicked in Adam's mind. He remembered the mural. If they were part of the story, then they could rewrite it. But how? Think of something strong. Adam yelled, trying to focus. Something that scares them away. Jamie was hesitating. Like what? Positivity? That's ridiculous. Anything. He snapped, feeling the shadows crawling up his legs, thick and suffocating. Family, Sarah said suddenly, her voice stronger. Think about the one thing you'd fight for. And as the shadows loomed closer, feeding off their growing panic, Adam closed his eyes. He thought of his sister's smile, her unwavering support. He thought of home, warmth, and love. His heart swelled with light, pushing against the darkness. But would it be enough? Would their love be stronger than this consuming, hungry void? As the whispers clawed at his sanity, Adam shouted, "We won't let you take us." In that moment, the air crackled. The shadows jerked back, slashing at the wall of light they had conjured. But would it hold? Would it be enough to drive the shadows away, or had they just enraged the beast hidden inside? The shadows roared, thrashing against their feeble defense. Adam could feel the ground shift with anger as they drew nearer, their rage intensifying. "Hold on," he screamed, but even he wasn't sure how long they could last against the terror closing in on them. Each second ticked by, and they stood there, ready for either freedom or capture. Would they break the chains of fear, or would the darkness swallow them whole? In the midst of chaos, a shattering laugh broke through, echoing in the depths of the store. The voice was familiar, taunting, and cruel. "Did you really think you could escape?" As the shadows loomed and the laughter danced around them, Adam's heart dropped. What had he awakened not just in the store, but within themselves? Could they wield the very light they created to fight back the shadows, or were they about to become part of that grotesque mural, a mere plot in someone else's wicked story? The answer lay just beyond the shadows, and Adam was determined to find it. Adam's heart raced as the laughter echoed through the store, curling around them like smoke. The shadows writhed, their forms stretching and contracting in response to the potent mix of fear and determination emanating from the trio. "Who's there?" Adam called out, his voice wavering. The shadows seemed to shift again, drawing back slightly as he spoke, almost as if reacting to his challenge. "Can you hear it?" Jamie whispered, eyes wide with terror. It's like they're alive." The girl behind the shelf cried out, "You have to believe. You have to visualize it. Think of your strength." But where did they find that strength in such despair? An overwhelming sense of hopelessness gripped Adam, refusing to let go. Would remembering good times be enough to push back against the shadows? Would it be enough to drive away the darkness that clawed at their edges? "Think of something strong," he shouted again, struggling to focus. A moment flashed in his mind, his sister's laugh echoing against the backdrop of a sunny summer day, the two of them spinning in the grass, carefree, and then, with determination boiling inside him, Adam opened his eyes wide and shouted, "Joy. Remember what makes you joyful. That's what the shadows can't handle." Sarah and Jamie blinked, surprise momentarily breaking through their fear. "Joy?" Jamie echoed, skepticism lacing his tone. "Yes, there's power in joy." Adam felt the truth of it surge through him. Think of your happiest moment. Maximize it. Every heartbeat pulsed with desperation, every second feeling eternal as he focused on his sister again. As though spurred by his fervor, Sarah finally spoke, her voice rising stronger as memories flooded her mind. "Riding our bikes down Nevermore Road, the wind in our hair, freedom." A flickering light burst from her, bathing the shadows in warmth. Yet they were roaring back, drawn to the cocktail of fear and light. "Jamie, your turn," Adam called as the brightness began to fade. Shadows learned in blinding fear creeping back. With a deep breath, Jamie closed his eyes. Family campouts under the stars, laughter, and Esmore's mama's smile as he spoke. Visuals lit up around them. Each mention conjured brilliant light, stark against the looming darkness. The shadows shied away, hissing like wounded beasts. Keep going, Adam urged, feeling the warmth grow. What else? But panic surged anew. Would their combined joy truly be enough to banish the shadows? What other memories would they need? The girl raised her hands, the tattered sleeves of her dress billowing. More. Focus on what fills you with strength. A shadow darted, feeling the energy shift. It whipped around Sarah, hungry tentacles snaking toward her. No, Adam howled, instinctively jumping forward, but uncertain if he could fight off the dark presence. Their momentary victory now hung by a thread as doubt took root. What would the shadows do if they turned their hunger onto the trio? Think harder. The girl shrieked, her voice nearly drowned out by the malice echoing in the darkness. Adam felt the panic pulse in his veins, his breath growing shallow. We can't let them take us, he cried. We fight. But as he squared his shoulders, a low growl cut through the air, shaking the ground beneath them. Another laugh, ringing cruel against the rising light around them. Suddenly, their vibrant memories were snatched from them, devoured by the dark that hungered. What if we fail? Despair clawed at Adam. It felt as if the shadows were piecing together their deepest fears, using them against them. Think of hope. The girl's voice rang with urgency, powerful and fierce. You're more than just fear. You're fighting for a future. Adam met Sarah's eyes, and in that moment, understanding crystallized. They were not just fighting shadows. They were fighting for themselves, for the memories yet to be created, for freedom and friendship, a glimmer amidst the despair. But would that truth be enough to turn the tides against the overwhelming darkness encroaching upon them? With a fierce heart, Adam shouted, "We won't give in. We will light the way." They threw their collective memories towards the encroaching shadows. The laughter morphed into screams, but the shadows pushed closer, their eyes glinting with dark malevolence. And as a cold hand clutched Adam's heart, he realized the true battle was just beginning. What would happen if their light didn't hold? What if this fight only fueled the shadows further? The answer loomed near, and the store felt more like a battleground than ever before. How could they endure this unholy encounter? And could they emerge with their souls unscathed? The darkness quivered, a storm brewing, as their fight for survival intensified what would ultimately come to claim their souls. The shadows shrieked in wicked delight, their forms pulsing and shifting as Adam's words hung in the air. The warmth from their memories crackled like static electricity but felt precarious, teetering on the edge of collapse. It was vibrant yet incredibly fragile. Focus, the girl pleaded, desperation cutting into her voice. Remember, the stronger your joy, the weaker they become. Adam felt a chill that went beyond the encroaching darkness. It snaked through his gut, wrapping tightly around his heart. What if they failed? Think of something more, he urged, looking at Sarah, who seemed lost again in a haze of anxiety. You have to dig deeper. Memories aren't enough, she cried, the fear in her eyes mirrored in Jamie's. The three of them stood at the precipice of despair, caught between shadow and light. What if joy isn't enough to stop them? Jamie responded, his voice trembling. What if they take us for good? The shadows seemed to sense their doubt. They surged forward, a mass of swirling blackness that lashed out like tendrils, searching for flesh, seeking to drain them of warmth, to feast on fear. Visualize hope, the girl shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. Hope is a fire, can burn them away. A fire, Adam murmured, his thoughts catching like dry grass. What if we envision something we want to protect, the future we long for? Yes, Jamie exclaimed, his face lighting up. I can see it. A home full of laughter. Our families together, no shadows, just happiness. With a surge of unity, they locked eyes, each of them rallying beneath the same thought. Adam steeled himself, his breath steadying as he envisioned sun-dappled days, future smiles, barbecues filled with laughter, and fireworks lighting up the night sky. I see it, Sarah shouted, her face glowing with determination. A forever summer. Hugs. Friends. The shadows recoiled, hissing at the brightness emerging from their combined imaginations. But then, The pinprick of light faltered, flickering as the shadows stirred, emboldened by the delay in Hope's arrival. Each moment felt endless as darkness slithered closer, their intent palpable gnarled fingers reaching out with insatiable hunger. Adam felt sweat trickle down his temple, his heart echoing wildly as if it wanted to escape. Think of something more specific, the girl urged, her voice a blade cutting through the fear. Focus on love. It defeats every darkness. Love. Adam processed those words, racing through memories. My dad teaching me to ride a bike, the feel of triumph that pride echoed in my chest, he said, igniting sparks within. And as Jamie and Sarah began to chant their own recollections, the combined power formed radiant arcs of energy, bright and fierce. It surged outward, pushing against the shadows, burning them like dry kindling scorched by flame. But the shadows fought back, their desperate laughter turning into cries of rage and confusion. The battle intensified, shadows slamming against the light, seeking any crack in its surface to slip through. Adam felt the tendrils flicker closer, brushing against his senses. Agony slipped in. Scream. The girl shouted, as Adam felt terror rise, a deep roar of emotion pulling from his core. Let your fear fuel your joy. No, Adam howled, letting all his fear, pain, and anger explode outward. You will not take us. With that, a brilliant flash erupted from them, forcing the shadows back with a pulse of light so bright it hurt to look. In that moment, the dark figures writhed as if they were exposed to the sun for the first time, burning, squirming as the warmth consumed them. But just as they began to retreat, the girlish eyes widened in horror. Behind you! Adam spun around, heart nearly stopping. Another horde of shadows emerged from the darkness behind the shelves. A deeper, darker form, infinite and unyielding, ready to pounce. What if it just gets worse? Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. The flicker of hope mixed with dread as the realization struck this battle was far from over. And the shadows were evolving, growing stronger, more ferocious. Could they survive this relentless wave of darkness? What horrors lay beyond the edges of their fight? A new threat loomed, even more harrowing than the torment they faced now. In the battle of shadows and light, there was no telling how far they would have to go to protect their souls. Adam could barely breathe as the shadows loomed closer. Fear gripped at his throat, making every inhale like pulling against a tight noose. The shadows twisted, their forms writhing with malicious intent, and their eyes, if they could be called that, burned with an unholy hunger. Together, they were a beast, a swirling mass that seemed to pulse like a living thing. Stay together, he shouted, grasping at the hands of Sarah and Jamie. The warmth slipping from their fingers felt like a lifeline. Yet they were all aware of the growing void around them, ready to consume any flicker of courage left in their hearts. We need a plan. Jamie's voice cracked, filled with desperation. More memories. 1T cut it now. They aren't afraid of those. What then? Sarah asked, tears pooling in her eyes. What do we do? Suddenly, the girl, their strange ally, stepped forward. We need to harness a different kind of energy. They feed off our despair, our fear. But they don't know what we're really made of. We have to show them. Adam's heart raced. What was she suggesting? Could they really unleash something that would illuminate the darkness more than they ever had before? Through the haze of dread, hope flickered once again. Right? Adam shouted. What do we imagine now? Imagine your inner strength. The girl called out. Picture what fuels your resolve. Not just love or joy, but the force that makes you fight back when the world tries to crush you. They nodded, grasping onto her words like lifebuoys in a raging storm. Adam closed his eyes tightly, searching deep within. What fired him up? Anger surged, and then he felt it, a flame igniting in his chest. His thoughts raced back to every time he had been told he wasn't enough, every time someone had tried to put him down. A strong wave of defiance surged through him. I'm not afraid of you, he shouted. I refuse to let you take us. His words rolled into an echo, bouncing between the others, each kindling a bright blaze of strength. Jamie and Sarah joined in, each raising their voices in a crescendo of defiance. The The shadows hesitated, confused as flickers of radiant energy began to break from their small group, a fiery barrier against the encroaching darkness. Then the shadows retaliated, thrashing at the light with furious howls, their collective rage a deafening scream in the air. Adam felt the ground shake beneath them, the air thick with suffocating dread. The luminous barrier wavered, shards of energy splintering off in every direction. "Fight back with everything," the girl shouted. "Channel it. We will not fade into the night." With that rallying cry, they pushed their emotions further. Pride surged inside Adam like a hurricane. He wanted to protect what was dear, to ensure that their spirits would not be extinguished. Jamie conjured the image of his younger sister, her laughter echoing in his mind. Sarah held onto the memories of her childhood playground, every swing a promise of joy. The energy exploded outward, a radiant shockwave that pushed back against the shadows. Tendrils writhed and shrank, shrieks of anguish reverberating as the pure light enveloped them, penetrating the darkness. Yet it wasn't enough. Each victory seemed to unravel only slightly before they surged back again, a relentless tide crashing against a fragile shore. "More. We need more," Adam gasped, desperation creeping into his voice. The shadows were shifting, changing their strategy, coordinating their onslaught with terrifying precision. Just then, the girl's expression turned dire. "They're gathering their strength. We must take the fight to them. If they organize, we won't stand a chance." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, panic rising. "We need to draw them into the light, to show them that we are not victims. We are warriors." The girl clenched her fists, the power in her gaze piercing through the panic that hung like mist. "It's time to confront the source of their strength." "What if it's a trap?" Jamie whispered, fear lacing through his words. But deep down, they all knew. Staying put would be their end. With their hearts pounding as one, they turned toward the undercurrent of shadows that pulsated menacingly in the distance. The decision had been made. The next moment would be a judgment day for both light and dark. "Together," Adam shouted, his voice breaking through the tendrils of fear and despair. "Let us face them head-on." As they stepped further into the darkness, it felt like plunging into icy water. The shadows wrapped around them like chains, but this time, they held onto each other tightly, determined to ignite the world with their courage. In the depths of the dark, something stirred. A presence larger than any shadow they had faced before. "What awaits us?" Adam thought, his pulse racing and mind spiraling in anxiety. The answer lay just beyond their reach, and he was no longer sure if he wanted to find out. The darkness pulsed like an angry heart, thrumming with the promise of secrets and cornucopias of fear. But Adam, Sarah, Jamie, and the girl still unidentified yet undeniably their ally pressed on. Each step a silent pact against despair. They could feel the shadows swirling, thick and hungry, a mass of malice waiting to swallow them whole. "Stay close," Adam urged, gripping their hands tighter. The feeling of unity was almost electric, a force stronger than the encroaching shadows. But he could feel the chill creeping into his bones, beckoning them to retreat. Instead, they forged ahead, determined to reach the very core of this malevolence. Suddenly, the darkness parted like a stage curtain, revealing a vast chamber of swirling, twisting shadows that roared and howled as if it was alive. In the center, a colossal figure emerged, a dark silhouette with swirling tendrils reaching out like grasping claws. It was the embodiment of all their fears, coalescing into a single monstrous entity. The whispers crescendoed into a terrifying crescendo of voices, each laced with despair and malice. "Welcome," the figure hissed, its voice a cool breeze laced with promises of doom. "You think you can confront me? You believe like fire could extinguish the storm?" The girl stepped forward, unyielding, the light around her flickering like a flame against the storm. "We will not let you take us. You will not win." Her fierce defiance rang out, echoing against the walls of the shadow realm. Adam, emboldened by her spirit, felt the power of hope swell within him. "We are not afraid," he shouted, the words bursting forth with determination. The figure recoiled slightly, taken aback, and for a moment the shadows trembled. Adam seized that moment. Focus, he yelled, directing his friends. What fuels your anger? Your strength. Think of what you fight for. Freedom, Jamie shouted, his brow furrowing with determination, recalling the joys of sunlit days and laughter shared with family. Friendship, Sarah added, her voice rising as she remembered the unbreakable bonds forged through the darkest of trials. Arms entwined, they shouted in unison. Courage, love, hope. With every declaration, flickers of light erupted around them, illuminating the chamber. Shadows shrieked, losing their shape, shrinking back against the tide of blazing emotion. Do not let them drown you, the figure screamed, its form twisting and contorting in a frenzied spiral, allowing the collective light to pierce through the darkness. The girl, summoning every ounce of inner strength, rooted herself into the ground. Together we push back, she commanded, and with one last, fervent roar from Adam, they charged forward, illuminating their path as the energy swelled and exploded outward, radiating hope and purpose. The shadows roared in agony, but they wouldn't back down. Not now. With one final, insatiable scream, the entity was engulfed in blinding light, its form melting away as if snow under the glare of the sun. The whispers vanished, replaced by vibrant warmth, their fear dissolved by the sheer power of their shared memories. And then silence. As they emerged from the darkness, gasping in relief, the first rays of dawn broke through the shadows, casting a gentle light on the crisp new day. They had done it, confronted the darkest corners of their nightmares, and emerged victorious. But relief was fleeting. They turned to find the girl fading, dissolving like mist in the sunlight. No, Adam cried, desperate to hold on to this newfound friend. You have awakened, she whispered, every word a soothing balm against the turmoil. Now you carry the light. It's yours to share. And just like that, she vanished, leaving them breathless and alone yet emboldened by her message. The world felt different, the air charged with potential as they stood together, tentative smiles blooming against the backdrop of a renewed neighborhood. The shadows that had once reigned over their street were now memories, banished by their courage. As they walked away from that haunted store, they knew they wouldn't just survive. They'd thrive. They were not just kids from a sleepy town anymore, they were warriors, the light against the darkness, ready to face whatever lay ahead. And together, they stepped into the dawn of a new beginning, bathed in warmth, leaving the darkness behind. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. They'll all thank you for it, and so will we.